Hey everyone, it's time to change the oil in the Cobra R. There's really not a lot of miles on the oil, but it's been in here for a little while, so it's time to change it. It's not really dark, but I think it's pretty much timed out, so time to put some new stuff in. There's a lot of armchair engineers on the internet, as everybody knows. There's a lot of debates and discussions about oil. I stick to what the owner's manual says. And the engineers do a lot of work. They put a lot of time in, so I'm going to trust what they say. I'm going to run a oil that they recommend or better. I usually don't run different weights than what they recommend. So this car calls for 1550. Regular Mustang Cobras of this era took a 520. But because this is sort of a race motor, it takes 1550. This is available at Walmart. I got all this stuff at Walmart. It cost about $65 to do all this. I'm also going to run a Mobil 1 filter. These new extended performance filters replace the old regular filters. So all in all, not too bad. Not really expensive to change the oil in this car, and it's pretty easy. I have it up on blocks. I have the jacks on the side just as an extra safety precaution. I'll leave them in place, but I'll rest the weight of the car on the jack. So I'll go underneath and we'll get started.
All right, I already cracked the plug loose. It was a 3/4 wrench. This car has a Canton oil pan on it. It holds 8.5 quarts. Regular Mustang Cobras of this era only held about 6. So if you're changing oil on most cars nowadays, your old style pan really didn't do too much. It wouldn't really hold enough oil, so I recommend getting one of these larger pans. So yeah, the oil looks pretty clean. It's really not too dirty. It's sort of hard to see under here. It's kind of dark, but so yeah, not too bad. I'll take a look at it once I get it all the way out, but not too bad overall. It's probably going to take a little while to drain. The only thing that's kind of a pain with these things is Mustangs of this era, Ford put most of the oil filters above the steering rack, so you got to kind of be careful not to make a mess. I'm probably going to put a piece of aluminum foil on there just to keep the oil from running down the steering rack. It's pretty clean under here, which you might be able to tell. I cleaned it pretty thoroughly over the summertime, so I want to keep it that way, but I'll put the piece of aluminum foil on there just to keep it from running down and keep everything really clean under here. Let's see. Yeah, the oil's still running out pretty good, so I'll let it run for a little while, and then I'll crack at the oil filter. All right, I built a little ramp with the aluminum foil. Let's see how well this works. It looks like it's working pretty good so far. Go slow with it so I don't overrun it, but it looks like it's working pretty good so far. This filter shouldn't be too hard to get out. There's plenty of room. It's just I prefer not to make a mess under the car. All right, not too bad. It came off pretty easily, and it's pretty clean. The gasket came off with it, so I don't have to worry about double gasketing it. And looks like that little ramp worked pretty good. Now they don't have oil over steering racks, so I'll go finish letting the sump drain, and I'll start prepping it for new oil. All right, so I got the new oil filter on. The oil one came off without issue. The Mobil 1 this takes is the same one that all the other Mustangs from this era take. It's the equivalent of the Ford FL 820. This is just the Mobil 1 M210. It's the same. It's just Mobil 1's equivalent. It's a little bit better of a filter. There's a lube up the gasket. Put a little bit of oil in it so it's not completely dry going on. But since it sits sideways, you really can't fill it up all the way. But it spins on nice and easy. There's plenty of room to put it on. So it's almost done dripping. So I'll cap it off down here, and I'll start refilling it, and we'll just check for any leaks. All right, car's back on the ground off the stands, or off the blocks rather. Everything's buttoned up, everything's tightened up, so time to start refilling it. The manual says it takes 8.5 quarts with the filter change, so I'll put in 8 to start off with, and I'll see where we go from there. But again, like I said, I'm running the recommended oil at the recommended weight.
I don't mess around with that. The engineers put a lot of time and effort into choosing what oil they use, so I always stick with what they use. And this car actually had this oil as a factory fill when it was new, so I'll fill it up, I'll start it up, and we'll check the pressure and check for any leaks. All right, I got 8 quarts in. Let's start it up. Make sure oil pressure is good. Let it run and fill the filter. All right, oil pressure looks good. No warning lights. So I'll let it idle for a minute just to fill everything up. The oil is pretty thick, so it takes quite a while to pour through the funnel, but seems okay. And then I'll check for any leaks when I get out of it. So far, so good. All right, checked underneath the car. I let it idle for a couple minutes. It looks pretty good. I put 8 quarts in, and that is where we are with 8. It's a little bit below the minimum line, so I'll put half in, and we'll see where that gets us. Alright, so I am done filling up the oil in the Cobra. The manual said it was supposed to take 8.5 quarts. It ended up taking almost 9.5. I'm kind of not surprised. I had an 01 Cobra for a while, and that was supposed to take 6, and it took like 6.5. So we are just right around 9.5. And I don't know if you can see it on the stick, but it is right at the maximum level. So we're basically right where we need to be. So I've had to put a little extra in it, that's fine. It was cheaper to buy 2 5-quart jugs than it was to buy a 5 and 4 singles. So if you have a 2000 Cobra R and you're changing the oil for the first time, buy 2 5-quart jugs. And that's how much is left. Again, this is the factory fill, $15.50 for this car. So don't start listening to people on the internet saying to run otherwise. This is what the engineers recommended. This is what the car actually came with. So I hope you enjoy, and if you're changing oil for the Cobra on your Cobra R for the first time, as you can see, this is pretty easy to do. Thanks for watching.